It's alive! It's alive! Have you ever wondered if the Dark Universe monsters were inspired by true stories? Hello? It's Frankenstein, and he's ready to set the record straight. Hey Ghoster Squad, welcome back to our spooky oasis. I'm Mandy Spooks and I live my best spooky life so that you can too. Every Sunday we enter the haunted line, uncovering ghost stories, urban legends, and the spooky origins behind the things we love and fear the most. And today's episode is extra special to me because around here, monsters are cool. I don't think they're scary, I think they're misunderstood. And there's no monster more misunderstood than Frankenstein himself. Yes, I'm aware that's technically the doctor's name, but come on, we all call him Frankenstein, and I said what I said. But even spookier, the original story of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley might not have been entirely fictional. The story that shocked the world, inspired decades of spooky pop culture, and gave us a monster who now has a permanent home in Dark Universe at Universal Studios may have a very real and very grim origin. Have I sparked your curiosity? Before we get started, quick content warning. Today's tale includes mentions of life, death, and the reanimation of corpses. That is what the story is all about. So grab your cozy mug if you dare, because today's story is electrifying. Let's grave dig in, shall we? In 1802, George Foster was convicted of murdering his wife and child. Their bodies were found floating in the Paddington Canal in London, and George was sentenced to death by hanging. But here's where it gets dark and spooky. Under the Murder Act of 1752, anyone convicted of murder wasn't just executed, their body was forfeited to science. Some were dissected in anatomy lectures, but others were used for public electrical demonstrations. George Foster's corpse was handed over to one of the most infamous scientists of his time, Dr. Giovanni Aldini. Dr. Aldini wasn't just any scientist, he was the nephew of Luigi Galvani, the guy who discovered that frog legs twitch when exposed to electric currents. And that discovery sparked a brand new field called galvanism. It was the belief that electricity could not only stimulate life, but restore it. And Dr. Aldini, he didn't want frogs, he wanted a human. In January of 1803, a crowd gathered inside the Royal College of Surgeons in London. A lecture hall was filled with scientists, skeptics, and the morbidly curious, just like you, my ghoul. And remember George Foster, the murderer? His body was displayed on a metal table. And just like the iconic mad scientist trope we've come to know and love, Dr. Aldini connected copper rods to a high voltage battery and then pressed them into Foster's face. Kinda ruins the fun mad scientist vibe when you realize it actually happened, right? The room fell silent. Then his jaw twitched. One eye snapped open. His arms swung violently, striking the table. His legs kicked, and his spine arched off the table. To the audience, it looked like the dead man was waking up. Some people screamed. Others fainted. One man reportedly died of shock after returning home because his heart was unable to handle what had happened. And just like that, a monster was born. And here's where the monster meets the mind that made him famous. At the time of Dr. Aldini's experiment, Mary Shelley was a child, but her father, philosopher William Godwin, was friends with many scientists, including Dr. Aldini himself. So yes, these stories, the reanimated corpses, the wires, the horror, were literally discussed around young Mary Shelley's dinner table. By the time Mary was 18, she'd survived family tragedy, political scandal, and heartbreak. And then in 1816, during that famously stormy summer in Geneva with Percy Shelley and Lord Byron, she had a dream about a man who builds life from death. She woke up and wrote what would become Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus. Victor Frankenstein's ambition, his icy detachment, that obsession with forbidden science. Yeah, it's definitely giving Dr. Aldini vibes. After Mary's book was published, strange sightings began. People in the hills of Scotland claimed to see a tall, gray-skinned figure roaming the hills, limping, face sunken with eyes that glowed when lightning struck. One woman said she saw him watching from the trees after her husband read the book aloud by candlelight. She described a great man, pale as smoke, staring straight through her. Some say it was just imagination. Others believed Mary had done more than tell a story. She had summoned something evil. And something that really sparked my interest was a lesser-known tale about Mary Shelley's writing space. She often wrote at night by candlelight in front of an old mirror, revealing visions to her while she wrote. Others claimed it was cursed, an object tied to cataptropancy, the ancient art of divination through reflections. If that sounds familiar, it should. That's the same type of ritual used in the Bloody Mary legend. And if you're curious about that origin story, you can catch it at the end of this episode. What started as a grotesque science experiment in a 19th century lecture hall became one of the most iconic horror stories of all time. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein didn't just launch modern horror, it changed the way we think about life, death, and the monsters we create. And more than 2 centuries later, Frankenstein is still very much alive. In books, merch, and the big screen. Universal Studios immortalized him in their 1931 classic horror film, with Boris Karloff's face becoming the blueprint for what we picture when we think of the monster. He's now a symbol of the dark universe, towering over Halloween horror nights, creeping through theme park fog, and popping up in just about every spooky season display, and this spooky ghoul's heart. If you haven't caught on, a common theme we're learning on the Haunted Line is that the scariest stories, they're usually the real ones. Frankenstein might not have been real, but the experiment that inspired him absolutely was. So next time you walk through Universal Studios and see his face glowing green through the mist, just remember, behind every monster is a very human mistake. Did you already know the spooky origin of Frankenstein? Let me know in the comments. And while you're at it, tell me what haunted history or spooky origin you want me to grave dig into next. Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed on Patreon to help keep the Haunted Line ringing and investing in our first original horror short film. If you love all things spooky, be sure to subscribe if you dare, because every Sunday we enter the Haunted Line and I show you how I live my best spooky life every day. Until next time, sending you ghouls and kisses. Bye!